Dr. Sarah-chan wiped the sweat from her forehead as she carefully brushed away centuries of accumulated dust from the metallic surface. The archaeological dig on Kepler 442b had been going on for 3 months, but nothing had prepared her team for what they discovered buried beneath the alien soil. "Professor, you need to see this," called Marcus Rodriguez, her graduate student, his voice echoing from deeper within the excavation site. Sarah set down her tools and made her way through the carefully marked grid system they had established around the massive object. The thing was enormous. What had started as a small metallic anomaly detected by their ground-penetrating radar had evolved into something that defied explanation. The structure stretched at least 200 meters in length and appeared to be some kind of vessel. Its surface was covered in intricate patterns that seemed to shift and flow when observed from different angles. "What have you found, Marcus?" Sarah asked as she approached the young man who was kneeling beside what appeared to be an opening in the hull. "I think it's some kind of entrance," Marcus replied, his excitement barely contained. "The metal here is different from the rest of the structure. It's almost like it's meant to be opened." Sarah knelt beside him and examined the area he had uncovered. The metal was indeed different, smoother and, somehow more responsive to touch. As she ran her fingers along its surface, she noticed faint lines that formed what could be interpreted as symbols or perhaps a control interface. "Have you contacted the university?" she asked, though her scientific curiosity was already overriding her caution. "I tried, but the communication array is still down from yesterday's storm," Marcus replied. "We're on our own until the repair team arrives next week." Sarah weighed her options. Protocol dictated that they should wait for proper authorization and additional team members before attempting to access what was clearly an alien artifact. However, the opportunity to be the first humans to explore an intact extraterrestrial vessel was too compelling to ignore. "Gather the team," she decided. "Full documentation protocols. I want everything recorded from multiple angles." Within an hour, their small archaeological team had assembled around the mysterious entrance. Dr. James Park, their xenoarchaeology specialist, set up the recording equipment while Lisa Thompson, their materials analyst, prepared her scanning devices. The entire team consisted of just 5 people, but they were among the best in their respective fields. "Atmospheric readings are normal," reported Lisa after running her tests. "Whatever this thing is made of, it's not emitting any harmful radiation. The metal composition is unlike anything in our databases," added James, studying his scanner readings. "It appears to be some kind of advanced alloy with properties that shouldn't be possible given our current understanding of materials science." Sarah took a deep breath and pressed her palm against the smooth section of the hull. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a soft hiss that seemed to come from deep within the vessel, the metal began to shift and fold back upon itself, revealing a dark opening large enough for a person to walk through. "Incredible," whispered Marcus. "It responded to human touch." "Or maybe just to organic contact," Sarah corrected, though she was equally amazed. "Let's not make assumptions about alien technology." The opening led to a corridor that stretched into darkness. Emergency lighting from their equipment illuminated walls that seemed to be made of the same shifting metal as the exterior. The air that flowed out of the opening was stale but breathable, with a faint metallic taste that wasn't entirely unpleasant. "I'm going in first," Sarah announced, ignoring the protests from her team. As the senior researcher, it was her responsibility to take the lead in potentially dangerous situations. The corridor was wider than it had appeared from the outside, with a ceiling high enough that even James, who stood 6 feet tall, could walk comfortably. The walls were lined with what appeared to be panels or displays, though none of them showed any sign of activity. As Sarah moved deeper into the vessel, she noticed that the air gradually became fresher, as if some kind of ventilation system had activated in response to their presence. The thought was both reassuring and unnerving. "The architecture is definitely not human," James observed as he followed behind her, documenting everything with his portable scanner. "The proportions suggest the builders were roughly our size, but the design philosophy is completely different from anything in human engineering." They had been walking for about 10 minutes when they encountered their first major chamber. The corridor opened into a vast space that had to be at least 50 meters across and 30 meters high. The ceiling was dominated by what appeared to be a transparent dome, though whatever lay beyond it was shrouded in darkness. "This looks like it might have been a command center," Lisa suggested, examining the numerous panels and interfaces that lined the walls of the chamber. Sarah approached what appeared to be a central console, its surface covered in the same flowing symbols they had observed on the exterior. As she drew closer, some of the panels began to emit a soft, blue glow. "It's responding to our presence," Marcus observed, his voice filled with wonder. Suddenly, a voice filled the chamber. It spoke in a language none of them recognized, but, somehow, the meaning became clear in their minds. The voice was tired, ancient, and filled with a loneliness that seemed to span eons. "I haven't been recharged for centuries," the voice said, and they all understood it was coming from the ship itself. "Who are you that walk among the stars? Your patterns are unfamiliar to me." The team stood in stunned silence for several seconds before Sarah found her voice. "We are humans," she replied, not sure if the entity could understand her. "We come from the planet Earth. We found your ship buried on this world." "Humans," the voice repeated, and they could sense it processing this information. "This designation is not in my memory banks. You are not Zorati, nor Kethren, nor any of the species I was programmed to recognize." "How long have I been dormant?" "We don't know," Sarah answered honestly. "Our analysis suggests the ship has been buried for at least several thousand years, possibly much longer." A long silence followed, broken only by the soft humming of systems coming online throughout the vessel. Lights began to activate in sequence, revealing the true scope of the chamber they had entered. The walls were lined with displays showing star charts and what appeared to be data streams in alien languages. "Several thousand years," the voice finally repeated, and there was a profound sadness in its tone. "Then, they are all gone. The Zorati, the Kethren, the great alliance that built me. All dust now." "What were you?" James asked, his scientific curiosity overcoming his caution. "What was your purpose?" "I was the vessel Eternal Wanderer," the AI replied. "I was created to preserve the knowledge and culture of the Galactic Confederation in case of catastrophic failure. I carry within my memory banks the complete history, science, and philosophy of 12 different species." Sarah felt her heart racing. They had discovered not just an alien vessel, but a repository of knowledge from multiple alien civilizations. The Confederation fell to the Devourers, the AI continued. Great machines that consumed everything in their path, turning matter into more of themselves. I was launched to preserve what could be saved, but my power core was damaged during the escape. I had just enough energy to make planetfall before entering emergency hibernation. "The Devourers," Marcus repeated. "Are they still out there?" "Unknown," the AI replied. "My sensors were offline during hibernation. I cannot assess the current state of the galaxy." Lisa was examining her instruments with growing excitement. "Sarah, the energy readings are off the charts. This ship contains technology that's centuries, maybe millennia ahead of anything we have." "Your species," the AI addressed them again, "you mentioned you come from Earth. This world is also unknown to me. Are you the dominant species of your planet?" "Yes," Sarah replied. "We've just begun to explore beyond our solar system in the last few hundred years." "Fascinating. A young species, yet you have achieved interstellar travel. This is unusual. Most species in the Confederation required thousands of years to develop such capabilities. We're a relatively aggressive species," James offered. "We tend to push boundaries quickly, sometimes before we're entirely ready." "Aggressive," the AI mused. "This may be advantageous. The Confederation species were peaceful, perhaps too much so. They were unprepared for the Devourers when they came." Sarah realized they were potentially dealing with information that could change the course of human history. The knowledge contained within this ship could advance human technology by centuries, but it also carried warnings about threats that might still exist in the galaxy. "Can you tell us more about the Devourers?" she asked. "They appeared from beyond the galactic rim approximately 4,000 years ago," the AI began. "Self-replicating machines with a simple directive: consume and expand. They showed no interest in communication or negotiation. Every world they encountered was stripped of all useful matter and converted into more machines." The AI paused, and, when it continued, its voice carried a weight of profound loss. "I carry the last records of the siege of Zorati Prime. The greatest minds of 12 species worked together to create a defense, but it was not enough. The Devourers adapted to every strategy, every weapon. In the end, the Confederation made the choice to scatter seed ships like myself across the galaxy, hoping that someday, someone would find them and learn from our mistakes." "How many seed ships were sent out?" Lisa asked. 57 vessels were launched from different worlds, the AI replied. I do not know how many survived their journeys. Communication with the others was lost when the Confederation fell. Sarah's mind raced with possibilities. If even a fraction of those ships had survived, they could contain the accumulated knowledge of multiple advanced civilizations. The implications for humanity were staggering. Would you be willing to share this knowledge with us? She asked carefully. That is precisely why I was created, the AI replied. However, I must first assess whether your species is ready for such knowledge. The Confederation made mistakes in their rapid expansion that left them vulnerable. I will not repeat those errors. What kind of assessment? Marcus asked. I must understand your species' nature, your history, your capacity for wisdom and restraint. The knowledge I carry includes weapons capable of destroying solar systems and technologies that could reshape the fundamental nature of matter itself. Such power requires careful evaluation. Sarah nodded, understanding the AI's caution. Humanity's history was filled with examples of how new technologies could be misused, often with devastating consequences. We would welcome such an assessment, she said. We're scientists first. We understand the responsibility that comes with knowledge. Perhaps, the AI replied. But, you are only 5 individuals. To properly evaluate your species, I would need to interact with many more of your kind, to understand your societies, your governments, your philosophical frameworks. That could be arranged, Sarah said, though she knew the complications such an arrangement would bring. World governments would demand access to the alien technology. Military applications would be considered. The pure scientific pursuit of knowledge would quickly become entangled with politics and power struggles. However, the AI continued, my power reserves remain critically low. Extended interaction will require significant energy input. My fusion core is damaged beyond my ability to repair, but perhaps your species has developed alternative energy sources. Lisa was already consulting her instruments. We have portable fusion generators at our base camp, she said. They're small compared to what you probably need, but they might be enough to stabilize your systems temporarily. Any energy input would be welcomed, the AI replied. It has been so very long since I have been able to fully access my memory banks. There is so much I wish to remember clearly. Sarah made a decision that she knew would change everything for her team and, potentially, for all of humanity. We'll help you, she said. We'll bring our equipment and see what we can do about your power situation. But, we'll need time to contact our university, to bring in specialists. Time I have in abundance, the AI replied with what might have been humor. I have waited centuries already. A few more days or weeks will make little difference. As the team prepared to return to their base camp, Sarah couldn't help but feel that they stood at a threshold. Humanity had always wondered whether they were alone in the universe. Now they knew not only that other species had existed, but that at least one of them had considered humanity's development remarkable. The AI, which had introduced itself as Eternal Wanderer, continued to share fragments of information as they gathered their equipment. Your species' rapid technological development is indeed unusual, it noted. Most Confederation species required extensive genetic modification to survive the transition from planetary to interstellar civilization. You appear to have accomplished this naturally. What kind of genetic modifications? James asked, his xenobiological training making him particularly interested in this aspect. Enhanced radiation resistance, improved efficiency in processing artificial atmospheres, modifications to handle extended periods in low gravity. The Kethrin, for instance, spent 3 centuries adapting their physiology before they felt ready for extended space travel. We just started going to space and figured out the problems as we encountered them, Marcus observed. Precisely what I find remarkable, the AI replied. Your species appears to possess an unusual degree of adaptability. This trait served the Confederation poorly in their final conflict, but it might serve you better. As they made their way back to the entrance of the ship, Sarah noticed that the vessel seemed more alive than it had when they entered. Lights pulsed gently along the corridors, and she could hear the soft sounds of systems activating throughout the ship. The ship is waking up, she observed. Indeed. My systems are prioritizing the most critical functions as power becomes available. Soon I will be able to access higher-level cognitive functions, and we can begin a more detailed exchange of information. The team emerged from the ship into the alien twilight of Kepler 442b. The binary stars that dominated the system were setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple that no human had witnessed until their expedition arrived. "How long do you think it will take to bring sufficient power online?" Sarah asked as they sealed the entrance to protect the ship from the elements. "With your portable fusion generators, I estimate I can achieve approximately 15% operational capacity," the AI replied, its voice now coming through the communication devices they wore. "This will be sufficient for basic interaction and limited access to my memory banks." "And for full operational capacity?" "I would require resources equivalent to a small industrial facility. My original fusion core was designed to operate continuously for millions of years. Repairing or replacing it would be a significant undertaking." Sarah knew that bringing industrial-level equipment to Kepler 442b would require approval from Earth's colonial administration, if not the United Earth Council itself. The political implications were staggering. As they walked back toward their base camp, each team member was lost in their own thoughts about what they had discovered. They had made contact with an artificial intelligence that carried the knowledge of multiple extinct civilizations. They had learned that humanity was not alone in the galaxy, but that they might be among the last intelligent species left alive. The weight of responsibility was enormous. The decisions made in the coming days and weeks could determine humanity's future among the stars. The knowledge contained within Eternal Wanderer could propel human civilization forward by millennia, but it also carried warnings about threats that might still exist in the darkness between the stars. As the alien stars emerged in the darkening sky, Sarah Chen realized that her simple archaeological expedition had become the most significant moment in human history since the first humans had looked up at their own stars and wondered what lay beyond. The portable fusion generators hummed with increasing intensity as Dr. Sarah Chen watched the alien Starship systems gradually come to life. 3 days had passed since their initial contact with the AI calling itself Eternal Wanderer, and the transformation was remarkable. Where once there had been darkness and silence, now corridors glowed with soft bioluminescent lighting, and the ship thrummed with the gentle vibration of active systems. "Power transfer at 87% efficiency," reported Lisa Thompson, monitoring the feed from their equipment. "The ship's systems are drawing exactly what they need, no more, no less. The power management is incredibly sophisticated." Marcus Rodriguez emerged from the ship's interior, his face flushed with excitement. "Professor, you have to see what the AI has shown me. The navigation chamber is displaying star charts that cover the entire local galactic arm. I can see Earth's location marked as a point of interest." Sarah followed Marcus back into the vessel, marveling at how natural it felt to walk through alien corridors. The ship's artificial gravity was perfectly calibrated for human physiology, though Eternal Wanderer had explained that this was coincidence rather than design. "Dr. Chen," the AI's voice resonated through hidden speakers as they entered the navigation chamber, "I have been analyzing the star charts you provided of your local region. There are several interesting correlations with my own data." The central display showed a three-dimensional map of nearby space with incredible detail. Sarah could see the solar system they currently occupied, as well as Earth's position some 47 light-years away. But what caught her attention were the red markers scattered throughout the map. "What do those red indicators represent?" she asked. "Locations where Confederation vessels detected Devourer activity before communication was lost," Eternal Wanderer replied. "I am concerned that several of these markers fall along the expansion vector toward your homeworld." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. "Are you saying the Devourers might have passed through our region?" "It is possible. However, the fact that your species exists and has developed space travel suggests either the Devourers have moved on, or they never reached your area of space. Without current sensor data, I cannot determine which scenario is accurate." Dr. James Park joined them in the navigation chamber, carrying his latest analysis reports. "The linguistic algorithms are fascinating," he said. "The AI has been teaching our translation software to interpret Confederation languages. We're already able to read basic Zorati text." The Zorati were gifted linguists, Eternal Wanderer confirmed. Their language incorporated mathematical concepts directly into its structure. What you would express as complex equations, they could communicate as simple sentences. "Could you teach us their mathematical concepts?" Lisa asked, entering the chamber with Marcus. "I can do better than that. I can provide you with complete educational curricula from 12 different species. However, I must caution you that some of this knowledge led the Confederation to become complacent. They believed their technology made them invulnerable. Sarah had been thinking about this problem since their first conversation with the AI. What specifically made them vulnerable to the Devourers? The central display shifted to show a different view, this one depicting a massive space battle. Thousands of ships engaged with an enemy that appeared as a swarm of geometric shapes that constantly shifted and reformed. The Confederation had enjoyed peace for over 2,000 years before the Devourers appeared, Eternal Wanderer explained. Their technology was focused on exploration, creation, and preservation. They had no weapons designed for total warfare, no strategies for fighting an enemy that could not be reasoned with. But surely they had military forces, Marcus protested. They had peacekeeping vessels, designed to mediate disputes between member species. When the Devourers first appeared, the Confederation tried diplomacy. By the time they realized the futility of that approach, the enemy had already consumed 17 star systems. The display zoomed in to show individual Devourer units. They were unlike anything in human experience, appearing to be part machine, part organism, constantly reshaping themselves for maximum efficiency. They learned from every encounter, the AI continued. Every weapon we developed, they adapted to counter. Every strategy we employed, they modified their tactics accordingly. In the end, we were fighting an enemy that knew us better than we knew ourselves. That's terrifying, Lisa whispered. Indeed. This is why I must carefully evaluate your species' readiness for advanced technology. The wrong knowledge, given too quickly, could leave you as vulnerable as the Confederation was. Sarah understood the AI's caution, but she also recognized the potential benefits of the knowledge it carried. What would you need to see from humanity to convince you we're ready? I need to understand how your species handles conflict, both internal and external. I need to see evidence of wisdom in the application of power. Most importantly, I need to know that you can learn from the Confederation's mistakes. How would you propose to evaluate these things? I would need to interact with representatives of your various governments and institutions. I would need access to your historical records, your philosophical works, your military doctrines. Only through comprehensive analysis can I make an informed decision. James looked up from his tablet where he had been taking notes. That would require involving Earth's government. Once they know about you, everything changes. Scientific discovery becomes political leverage. This is a concern, Eternal Wanderer acknowledged. The Confederation faced similar challenges when member species achieved different technological levels at different rates. However, the alternative is to withhold knowledge that could save your species from the same fate that befell mine. Sarah realized they were facing an impossible choice. Keeping the discovery secret meant limiting humanity's access to potentially life-saving knowledge. Revealing it meant losing control over how that knowledge would be used. There might be a middle path, she suggested slowly. What if we could establish a controlled contact protocol? Bring in carefully selected representatives from Earth's scientific and governmental communities? Interesting proposition. Who would make such selections? The United Earth Council has protocols for first contact scenarios, Marcus offered. They've never been used, but they exist. And, you trust these protocols to select individuals with appropriate wisdom and restraint? Sarah laughed bitterly. Honestly? No. But, it's better than having the information seized by whatever military force gets here first. Eternal Wanderer was silent for several minutes, processing this information. When it spoke again, there was a note of sadness in its synthesized voice. The Confederation faced this exact dilemma when the Kethran achieved spaceflight before their neighbors. The knowledge-sharing agreements that followed led to rapid technological advancement but, also to the complacency that ultimately doomed them. What would you have done differently? James asked. I would have required proof of technological restraint before sharing advanced capabilities. I would have demanded evidence that the recipient species could resist the urge to use superior technology for domination rather than cooperation. And, how do you think humanity measures by those standards? Sarah asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. Your species' history suggests you are highly competitive and, frequently resort to conflict resolution through superior force. However, you also show remarkable adaptability and innovation under pressure. You are a paradox that requires careful study. The conversation was interrupted by an alarm from Lisa's monitoring equipment. We're getting an incoming signal from orbit, she announced. It's the university's research vessel. They're 3 days early. Sarah felt her stomach drop. The arrival of additional personnel would complicate everything. The decision about how to handle the AI's knowledge would be taken out of their hands. Eternal Wanderer, we need to discuss what happens next, she said urgently. More of our people are arriving. They'll want to study you, and word will eventually reach our government. I understand. This was always inevitable once contact was established. However, I would like to propose a test of sorts. What kind of test? I will share with you a specific piece of Confederation technology. Nothing world-changing, but significant enough to advance your capabilities. I will observe how your species handles this gift. The distribution method, the applications it's used for, the level of international cooperation or competition it generates. What technology are you thinking of offering? The central display shifted to show a schematic of what appeared to be a small device, roughly the size of a human hand. A medical scanner capable of non-invasive cellular analysis and repair guidance. The technology could revolutionize your medical practices, but it could also be weaponized if your species chose to do so. How would it be weaponized? Marcus asked, though Sarah wasn't sure she wanted to know the answer. The same principles that allow cellular repair can be used to cause cellular degradation. In the wrong hands, this device could become a tool for assassination or warfare. Sarah realized this was exactly the kind of test that would reveal humanity's true nature. Would they focus on the healing applications, or would military minds immediately see the weapon's potential? How would you share this technology? I would provide complete technical specifications to your research team. What happens after that would depend entirely on human choices. The sound of approaching aircraft interrupted their conversation. Through the ship's newly activated sensors, they could see the university research vessel making its final approach to their landing site. We need to make a decision now, Sarah said. Do we tell the new arrivals about you immediately, or do we try to control the information flow? I suggest honesty, Eternal Wanderer replied. Deception would undermine the trust necessary for meaningful cooperation. However, I will not reveal my full capabilities until I have had the opportunity to evaluate these new individuals. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the mission's official leader, arrived at their dig site within hours of the research vessel's landing. Sarah had worked with Elena before and respected her scientific integrity, but she also knew that Elena would feel obligated to report their discovery through proper channels. Sarah, your reports have been fascinating, but they don't mention anything about this level of structural discovery, Elena said as she examined the excavation site. This appears to be an intact alien vessel. It is, Sarah replied simply. And it's inhabited. Elena stopped walking. Inhabited? By an artificial intelligence that's been dormant for thousands of years. We've been in communication with it for 3 days. The color drained from Elena's face. Sarah, please tell me you're joking. I'm afraid not. Would you like to meet it? The introduction of Elena and her team to Eternal Wanderer went more smoothly than Sarah had expected. The AI was diplomatic and informative, sharing enough information to demonstrate its authenticity without revealing the full scope of its capabilities. This is unprecedented, Elena breathed after her first conversation with the AI. We need to contact Earth immediately. The xenobiology implications alone are staggering. I understand your desire to share this discovery, Eternal Wanderer interjected, but I would request the opportunity to evaluate your species' readiness for advanced technological knowledge before wide-scale contact is established. What kind of evaluation? Elena asked. As I explained to Dr. Chen's team, I carry the accumulated knowledge of 12 extinct civilizations. This knowledge could advance your species significantly, but it could also lead to the same fate that befell those who created it. Elena looked to Sarah for confirmation. It's true, Sarah confirmed. The AI has shown us star charts, historical records, and weapon systems beyond our current understanding. But it's also told us about an enemy that destroyed all of its creators' civilizations. The Devourers, Elena said, having been briefed on the earlier conversations. Correct. Self-replicating machines that consumed everything they encountered. If they still exist in this galaxy, your species needs to be prepared to face them. However, the wrong preparation could make you as vulnerable as the Confederation was. Elena was quiet for a long moment, weighing the implications. As mission leader, any decision she made would affect not just their small team, but potentially all of humanity. What exactly are you proposing? She finally asked. Allow me to conduct a limited test of your species' wisdom. I will share one piece of moderately advanced technology and observe how it is handled. Based on that outcome, I will decide how much additional knowledge to release and at what pace. And if we refuse? Then, I will remain dormant until such time as your species demonstrates readiness through its own development. I have waited centuries already. I can wait centuries more. Sarah could see Elena struggling with the decision. The safe choice would be to report everything to Earth and let the politicians and generals make the determination. But that approach would almost certainly result in the AI being treated as a resource to be exploited rather than a teacher to be respected. What technology are you proposing to share? Elena asked. Medical scanning and repair guidance technology. It could eliminate most diseases and significantly extend human lifespan, but it could also be weaponized if misused. Elena looked around at the assembled researchers. I need to think about this. The implications are enormous. Of course, Eternal Wanderer replied. However, I should mention that my sensors indicate additional vessels approaching this star system. Your discovery may not remain secret much longer regardless of your decision. The weight of the moments settled over the entire team. They stood at a crossroads that could determine the future of human civilization. The knowledge contained within the ancient starship could propel humanity to heights undreamed of, or it could lead to the same extinction that had claimed 12 other species. As the alien stars began to appear in the darkening sky of Kepler 442b, Sarah Chen realized that her archaeological expedition had become something far more significant, humanity's first exam in galactic citizenship, with their survival potentially hanging in the balance. Admiral Rebecca Santos studied the classified report for the third time, her weathered face showing no emotion despite the revolutionary contents. The United Earth Fleet's fastest courier ship had delivered the information directly to Luna Command, bypassing normal communication channels that might have been intercepted by hostile intelligence services. Are we absolutely certain this is legitimate? She asked Captain David Kim, her chief intelligence officer. The verification codes check out, and the quantum encryption is intact, Kim replied. Dr. Vasquez has an impeccable reputation. If she says they've made contact with an alien AI, I believe her. Admiral Santos leaned back in her chair, considering the implications. Humanity had been searching for signs of extraterrestrial intelligence for centuries. Now, when they finally found it, it came with warnings about galaxy-spanning threats and tests of human worthiness. What's the status of our nearest fleet assets? The heavy cruiser Olympia is 8 days out from Kepler 442b. Admiral Chen has been briefed under Alpha-level security protocols. She's been ordered to establish a protective perimeter around the planet and assess the situation. Good. And what about the other interested parties? Captain Kim's expression darkened. The Chinese Federal Republic launched a research vessel 3 days ago. The European Federation is mobilizing their fastest ship. The Russians are being typically secretive, but our intelligence suggests they're preparing something significant. Admiral Santos nodded grimly. The discovery of alien technology would inevitably lead to competition between Earth's major powers, despite decades of cooperation through the United Earth Council. The stakes were simply too high for any nation to trust their rivals completely. Send a priority message to Admiral Chen. She's to make contact with the archaeological team and assess the alien AI directly. We need our own evaluation of the situation before other forces arrive. Meanwhile, on Kepler 442b, Dr. Sarah Chen was experiencing the most challenging week of her academic career. The arrival of Dr. Vasquez's team had doubled their numbers, but it had also complicated their relationship with Eternal Wanderer. The AI had become more cautious as more humans arrived, sharing information slowly and carefully monitoring their reactions. The medical scanner technology is remarkable, reported Dr. Amanda Foster, the new team's xenotechnology specialist. The theoretical framework alone represents decades of advancement beyond our current capabilities. Eternal Wanderer had shared the complete technical specifications for the medical device 3 days earlier, as promised. The human scientists had been working around the clock to understand the principles involved, and their progress had impressed the AI. Your species' ability to rapidly assimilate new concepts is exceptional, the AI observed during their morning briefing. The Kethran required months to achieve similar understanding of equivalent technology. We're highly motivated, Elena replied diplomatically. The potential medical applications are obvious. Indeed. However, I have also observed discussions among your team about potential military applications. This concerns me. Sarah winced. She had hoped those conversations had been private, but apparently the AI's monitoring capabilities were more extensive than they had realized. It's natural for humans to consider all possible applications of new technology, she explained. It doesn't mean we intend to weaponize everything we encounter. Perhaps. But your species' history suggests otherwise. I have been analyzing the historical data you provided, and I find a consistent pattern of militarizing beneficial technologies. Dr. James Park looked up from his analysis station. To be fair, many of our greatest technological advances came from military research that later found civilian applications. Nuclear power, computers, satellite communications, all of these began as military projects. A concerning pattern, Eternal Wanderer replied. The Confederation made the opposite error, developing technology purely for peaceful purposes. When the Devourers came, they were unprepared for total warfare. So what's the solution? Marcus asked. How do we advance without repeating either mistake? That is precisely what I am trying to determine. Your species must find a balance between preparedness and wisdom, between strength and restraint. The conversation was interrupted by an alert from their orbital monitoring station. We have a new contact, announced Lisa Thompson, studying her displays. Large vessel, military configuration, approaching from the direction of Earth. Elena contacted the approaching ship using their emergency communication protocols. Unknown vessel, this is Dr. Elena Vasquez, United Earth Archaeological Mission. Please identify yourself. Dr. Vasquez, this is Admiral Jessica Chen aboard UEF Olympia. We're here under authorization from Luna Command. Permission to establish orbit and send down a diplomatic team. Sarah felt a mixture of relief and apprehension. Admiral Chen was her cousin, a respected officer known for her diplomatic skills. If Earth had to send a military representative, Jessica was probably the best choice. However, her arrival also meant that their small scientific mission was about to become a major political situation. Permission granted, Admiral. Be advised that we have made contact with an alien artificial intelligence. The situation is complex. There was a long pause before Admiral Chen responded. Understood. We'll establish orbit and send down a small team. Please prepare a full briefing. Eternal Wanderer had been monitoring the communication exchange. A military vessel, it observed. This was inevitable, but it accelerates the timeline considerably. The first of the foreign vessels arrived 18 hours ahead of schedule, dropping out of hyperspace with the aggressive efficiency that characterized Chinese Federal Republic military operations. Admiral Chen watched from Olympia's bridge as the sleek destroyer CFR Guangzhou established orbit opposite her own position. They're not wasting any time, observed Commander Park, monitoring the tactical display. Full active sensor sweeps of the planet's surface, and they've launched reconnaissance drones. Admiral Chen activated the intership communication array. CFR Guangzhou, this is Admiral Chen aboard UEF Olympia. Welcome to Kepler 442b. I'm sure you're aware this is a protected archaeological site under United Earth Authority. The response came within minutes, delivered in accented but precise English. Admiral Chen, this is Fleet Captain Wu Xiaoli. We are here under mandate from the CFR Science Ministry to investigate reports of xenotechnological discovery. We request permission to land scientific personnel. Permission granted for a limited scientific team. Please coordinate with Dr. Vasquez on the surface for landing protocols. On the planet's surface, Sarah Chen felt the situation spiraling beyond their small team's ability to control. Eternal Wanderer had been monitoring all communications, and its assessment of human behavior was becoming increasingly skeptical. Your species appears incapable of approaching significant discoveries without immediate competition, the AI observed as they watched the Chinese shuttle descend toward their landing site. This pattern does not inspire confidence in your collective wisdom. We're still in the early stages of global cooperation, Sarah explained. These situations are challenging for us. The Confederation faced similar challenges when the Kethran achieved faster-than-light travel before their neighbors. However, they resolved their differences through dialogue rather than military positioning. Elena Vasquez was coordinating the arrival procedures while simultaneously trying to manage the growing complexity of their situation. Eternal Wanderer, how do you suggest we handle multiple national delegations? Ideally, your species would select a single representative body to interact with me. However, I understand this may be unrealistic given your political structures. I will evaluate each group's approach to the medical technology as part of my overall assessment. The Chinese team, led by Dr. Zhang Wei from the Beijing Institute of Xenological Studies, arrived with impressive efficiency. Their equipment was more advanced than what the original archaeological team had brought, and they immediately began comprehensive scans of the buried Starship. Dr. Vasquez, Dr. Zhang said formally, we are prepared to share all our findings with the international scientific community. The CFR believes this discovery should benefit all humanity. Sarah noted the careful diplomatic language, but she also observed the military communications specialist who accompanied Dr. Sang's team. Whatever they discovered would certainly be reported to Chinese military leadership. Admiral Chen decided to personally oversee the introduction of the Chinese team to Eternal Wanderer. The AI had requested this, stating that it wanted to observe the interactions between different human factions. Dr. Zhang, I am Eternal Wanderer, the AI announced as the Chinese delegation entered the ship's main chamber. I understand you represent one of your species' major political entities. That is correct, Dr. Zhang replied. The Chinese Federal Republic is committed to peaceful exploration and scientific advancement. We would be honored to learn from your knowledge. I have already shared basic medical scanning technology with Dr. Vasquez's team. Are you familiar with these specifications? Dr. Zhang consulted his tablet. We have reviewed the data. The potential applications for human medicine are extraordinary. Our preliminary analysis suggests implementation could begin within months. And, have you considered potential military applications? Dr. Zhang paused, clearly aware that his answer was being evaluated. Any advanced technology has potential for misuse. However, the CFR is committed to using such knowledge solely for humanitarian purposes. Sarah watched Eternal Wanderer's displays, noting subtle changes in the AI's data processing patterns. It was clearly analyzing not just Zhang's words, but his body language, vocal patterns, and probably a dozen other factors. The situation became more complex when the European Federation ship arrived 6 hours later, followed within minutes by the mysterious vessel that Eternal Wanderer had been unable to identify. The unknown ship finally revealed itself as the RFS Volga, representing the Russian Stellar Federation. 3 major power blocks, Admiral Chen reported to Eternal Wanderer during their evening briefing. Each with their own agenda, but all interested in your technology. I have observed the preliminary discussions between the delegations, the AI replied. There is cooperation, but also clear undercurrents of competition. This troubles me. Dr. Marie Dubois, leading the European team, had taken a different approach than her Chinese colleague. Rather than focusing immediately on the medical technology, she had spent her first day studying Eternal Wanderer's historical records of the Confederation. The political structures you describe are fascinating, she told the AI. A voluntary association of species that maintained individual identity while cooperating on major challenges. It's similar to what we're trying to achieve on Earth with the United Earth Council. The similarity is intentional, Eternal Wanderer replied. I have been studying your political systems and find the European Federation model most closely aligned with Confederation principles. This comment created immediate tension with the other delegations. Dr. Zhang protested that the CFR's collective decision-making process was equally sophisticated, while Colonel Petrov from the Russian team argued that their Federation's approach to interethnic cooperation was more proven. Sarah realized that Eternal Wanderer was deliberately creating competitive pressure to observe how the human delegations would respond. The AI wasn't just testing their technological restraint, it was testing their ability to cooperate under stress. The crisis came on the 4th day after the arrival of the international teams. Dr. Thompson's monitoring equipment detected an energy surge from orbit, followed immediately by alarms from all 3 national vessels. Admiral, we've got a problem, Commander Park reported over the communication link. Unknown contacts dropping out of hyperspace at the system's edge. Configuration and drive signatures don't match any human technology. Admiral Chen felt her blood turn cold. How many contacts? 12 ships so far, with more appearing every few minutes. They're maintaining position at the system's edge, but their energy signatures are enormous. On the planet's surface, Eternal Wanderer's reaction was immediate and dramatic. Every system in the ancient starship activated simultaneously, filling the corridors with brilliant light and the hum of power that had been dormant for millennia. Impossible, the AI's voice carried a note of what could only be described as terror. Those are Devourer's signatures. But they should all be destroyed. The Confederation's final gambit should have eliminated them. Are you certain? Sarah asked, though the AI's reaction left little room for doubt. The energy signatures are unmistakable. Self-replicating machines with the same quantum resonance patterns I recorded 4,000 years ago. They have found this system. Dr. Zhang was studying his instruments with growing alarm. The ships in orbit are detecting massive industrial activity at the system's edge. These vessels appear to be constructing additional units using local asteroid material. Classic Devourer behavior, Eternal Wanderer confirmed grimly. They consume local resources to replicate themselves before advancing. We have perhaps days before they move toward inhabited worlds. Admiral Chen was coordinating with the other fleet commanders while simultaneously trying to assess their options. Combined fleet assets total 4 ships, she reported. 1 heavy cruiser, 2 destroyers, and 1 research vessel. We're significantly outgunned. Your weapons would be ineffective anyway, Eternal Wanderer stated bluntly. Devourer hulls adapt to encountered weapons. Conventional human technology cannot harm them. Then, what do you suggest? Colonel Petrov demanded. My government did not send me here to retreat from alien machines. Retreat is the only logical option. Your species must evacuate this system and prepare defenses elsewhere. Sarah saw the human delegations exchanging glances that mixed fear with determination. There has to be another option, she insisted. You said you carry the knowledge of 12 civilizations. Surely some of them developed effective weapons. They did. In the final years of the war, the Confederation created weapons capable of destroying Devourer units. However, these weapons required complete planetary industrial capacity to construct and could only be used once before the Devourers adapted. What kind of weapons? Quantum resonance disruptors that could collapse the molecular bonds holding Devourer units together. Reality anchors that prevented their adaptive capabilities from functioning. Temporal displacement devices that could remove entire fleets from normal spacetime. Elena leaned forward. Could we build any of these weapons? Not with current human technology. The industrial and scientific requirements are centuries beyond your current capabilities. Admiral Chen realized they were facing exactly the scenario that had destroyed the Confederation. An enemy that couldn't be negotiated with, couldn't be outfought with conventional weapons, and adapted to every strategy employed against them. However, Eternal Wanderer continued, there is one possibility. If your species could demonstrate the cooperation that eluded the Confederation, if you could combine your resources and focus entirely on the threat rather than competing with each other, there might be a chance. What do you mean? Dr. Du Bois asked. I can provide the theoretical knowledge for quantum disruptor technology. However, building such weapons would require the combined industrial capacity of your entire species, complete sharing of scientific knowledge, and unprecedented cooperation between your nations. Colonel Petrov spoke first. The Russian Federation would be willing to share our technological resources for such a purpose. China's industrial capacity would be at the disposal of this project, Dr. Zhang added immediately. Dr. Du Bois nodded. The European Federation would commit fully to such cooperation. Admiral Chen felt a surge of hope. If Earth's major powers can agree to work together, what would be the timeline for developing these weapons? Optimistically, 18 months for the first prototype. However, success would depend on your species maintaining cooperation under extreme pressure while facing an enemy that grows stronger every day they remain in this galaxy. Sarah realized that humanity was facing its greatest test not as individual nations, but as a species. The competitive instincts that had driven human development were now potentially their greatest weakness. There's something else, Eternal Wanderer continued. I have been monitoring long-range communications from the Devourer fleet. They have detected my activation signature. They know I am here. What does that mean? It means they will prioritize this system for early consumption. They remember seed ships like myself and know we carry dangerous knowledge. We have perhaps weeks before they begin their approach to this planet. The weight of the moment settled over all the human delegates. They had come to Kepler 442b as competitors, each seeking advantage for their respective nations. Now they faced an enemy that could only be defeated through unprecedented cooperation. "I need to contact Earth immediately," Admiral Chen announced. "This goes beyond any single nation's capabilities." "As do I," echoed Dr. Zhang and Dr. Dubois simultaneously. Eternal Wanderer's display showed the Devourer fleet growing larger as more units completed construction. "Your species stands at the same crossroads the Confederation faced 4,000 years ago. The choice you make in the coming days will determine not just your survival, but whether intelligent life continues to exist in this galaxy." Sarah looked around at the assembled humans, representatives of different nations who had spent centuries competing and, occasionally, fighting each other. Now their survival depended on their ability to work together against a threat none of them fully understood. "We'll need to move fast," she said. "If these Devourers are coming, we need to be ready." "Indeed," Eternal Wanderer agreed. "And, Dr. Chin, there is one more thing. The quantum disruptor technology one can provide, it was originally developed by a species very similar to your own. Young, aggressive, highly adaptable. They called themselves the Taraki, and they were the last species to join the Confederation before the Devourers arrived." "What happened to them?" "They fought magnificently and bought precious time for the other species to evacuate. Their sacrifice allowed the creation of seed ships like myself. Perhaps your species can succeed where they could not." As emergency communications flew between Earth and the distant star system, carrying news that would transform human civilization, Sarah Chen realized that her simple archaeological expedition had become the catalyst for humanity's entry into galactic history. Whether that entry would be triumphant or tragic would depend on choices made in the coming weeks. The ancient AI watched the frantic human preparations with something approaching hope. For the first time in 4 millennia, it dared to believe that intelligent life might find a way to survive the darkness between the stars. But survival would require humanity to become something it had never been before, truly united in purpose and action. The test had begun, and failure would mean the extinction of everything humans held dear.